I work in the production side of the news world, primarily directing here at the booth, but sometimes I'll edit, sometimes I'll run audio, sometimes I'll run expression, which is like the little lower thirds that you see under the anchors' names and whatnot.
I was a photographer for about a year, so I worked with various reporters out in the field, kind of had firsthand experience of, well, when breaking news happens, what exactly does that look like? What is all put into motion when that happens? It requires a lot of teamwork. You have to work with your producers, your managers, your production department as well. They actually put, they're the ones running the whole entire newscast from the control booth. And if something is going wrong in there, you don't have a newscast.
Shit is hitting the fan, so to speak. Things can be tense, and it's very much like, no, we got to go to this, and then follow my lead and whatnot. So it can sometimes be intense, but 99% of the time, we're usually just executing the plan that we've already previously laid out.
Being a photog can also be exciting because you're often called to do breaking news. That was always exciting to me, to be first on the scene or just be on the scene and alerting the public to something that's going on that's going to affect either the community or a certain part of the community.
Yeah, so there was a day that I was out training to photog, and we were going to go cover a story on, it was like a women's build like for humanity, where it's like a team of women who are building this house, and they're teaming with a special needs organization to complete this task. And the photog who I was with was very interested in sort of the actual building of the house aspect. So he was expecting we'll get shots of them putting this up, we'll have them shots of raising, the walls and whatnot. And we get there and the house is already completed. And for the photog, that meant there was no more story. The entire reason for us driving down there seemed pointless. And it stuck out to me because I think you need to kind of see the essence of, and different angles of what stories are. Yes, a house is being built and that's great, but it's also the fact that these two organizations that aren't normally doing this type of work are helping one another to complete a task and ultimately help somebody else. And so I think there was a deeper sort of core to the story that went overlooked in that instance. And for me, it's just a sort of reminder, like, try to look at every point of view in a story to really kind of capture what the essence of it should be.
The disappearance of Molly Tibbetts, being there at the memorial service, I heard one of her favorite songs playing. And being there in that environment with the community that she grew up in and hearing that song, you kind of remember, this is more than a face on my TV. This is more than a name. This was a real human being who had thoughts, feelings, likes, dislikes, and for the first time, that's when I saw her as a real human being, unfortunately. It took being there to do it. And I think that in news, we're always trying to give the full scope of anything, especially in a story or a situation like that where somebody's missing and presumed dead. You want to be as authentic as possible. You want to do right by not only them and their memory, but their family, their community. And that was a huge lesson for me, in that no matter what story you're working on, you need to do right by the people that you're telling the story about.
I think Remote is trying to highlight the good and the bad of the news world in its story.
I think we really wanted people to see that journalism, just like anything else, is a job. You show up for your shift and you work on your story for the day. And then at the end of the night, you go home and do it again the next day.
There can often be a tendency to lose track of the people involved with the story you're covering and to not think about how your job affects them. And I think that's the other thing that we're trying to highlight in this movie. What I would probably say is that this is a chance for a bunch of artists from around the state and people who have ties to the state to come together and create a project that has the potential of being seen beyond just the film community.
People are very excited to work with us on this movie, and I think they'd be excited to work with anybody on their movie. And so if we're able to make this happen and maybe draw attention to some of these smaller cities that don't normally show up in movies, I think that could be huge for the community here.
Thanks for taking the time to watch this video, guys. We really appreciate it. Here's a sneak peek of the movie we hope to make.
I don't know who's listening. On the chance we don't make it, we want to tell you everything we know.
As you all know, a man was found dead in City Square Park this morning.
Residents here are in shock. What is normally a quiet and quaint park, now a crime scene where a man has died.
We understand your fears and frustrations. We'd like to put some of those to rest.
We'll be bringing you updates throughout the evening. Stay with us as this event unfolds.
We assure you we are taking every measure to ensure your safety.
He just comes back into town like nothing happened.
We'd like to see community. Instead of ignoring a problem and shoving it in the corner, we take it head on.
We're just trying to find out more about him, who he was, what he was like.
Well, I didn't know him. Sure weren't friends.
Literally everyone hates this guy. He's the victim.
Talk big game news guy, but where's it get you?
Why you gotta do that? Drag me into this mess so you can play detective?
How many more people need to die?
I cannot protect you.
If you want something done, you do it yourself.
If you're hearing this, send help immediately.